Hey man, there comes a time in every man's life when he finally realizes his worth, not through what others say, but through what they lose. When a woman walks away from a man like you, she doesn't just lose a relationship, she loses access to a kind of energy that can't be replaced. You were calm when she was chaotic. You were loyal when she was uncertain. You were grounded in a world where everyone is drifting, but because you didn't beg, because you didn't chase, because you stayed still while she ran toward the illusion of something better, she mistook your peace for weakness. What she didn't know is that she was leaving the last man who would have loved her with both depth and discipline. The last man who would have fought silently, not with words, but with consistency. And that's something she'll never find again, because it wasn't just you she lost. It was the version of herself that only existed when she was loved by a man like you. She'll go out into the world and meet men who make her laugh, men who give her attention, men who look the part. But what she won't find, not even once, is that same sense of stillness she felt with you. You didn't need to impress her. You didn't need to chase. Your presence was enough. That's what she didn't understand back then. That a man who doesn't need validation becomes the most validating thing a woman will ever experience. Every time she meets someone new, she'll compare him to the quiet standard you set. She'll notice how easily others get angry, how quickly they fold under pressure, how they seek to please her instead of challenge her. And she'll remember how you never bent to her emotions, how your strength forced her to look at herself. That's why she'll never forget you. Because you weren't just another man she dated, you were the mirror she ran from. The world has made men disposable, and women know it. There's always another guy in her DMs, another man ready to take her out, another option waiting to make her feel wanted. But what she doesn't realize, not until it's too late, is that options mean nothing when none of them feel real. You were real. You didn't play games. You didn't act mysterious to create attraction. You simply were. Your authenticity was the one thing she didn't know how to handle because it demanded vulnerability in return. You saw through her act, the filters, the emotional games, the little power plays. You saw her, and that terrified her, because deep down she knew she couldn't manipulate what she couldn't confuse. So instead of leaning into that truth, she ran from it, thinking she could find something easier. But she'll soon learn, the easy ones never stay, and the ones who stay are never easy. See, when a woman meets a man with emotional control, it disrupts her entire sense of power, because she's used to being the one who decides when things move, when they pause, when they end. She's used to men bending, chasing, apologizing. But you didn't chase. You didn't crumble. You didn't make her your god. You stayed still while she tried to provoke a reaction. And that silence, that composure, that was your strength speaking louder than words ever could. It's easy to find men who say all the right things, but nearly impossible to find one who doesn't lose himself in her moods. You showed her what it means to be emotionally disciplined, and now that she's tasted it, she'll never be satisfied with anything less. Because no matter how hard she tries to forget, her soul remembers the peace she felt when you didn't try to control her, yet couldn't be controlled by her either. She might post pictures with new men, she might pretend she's happy, that she's moved on, but that's just noise. Deep down, she knows the difference between attention and connection. She knows that attention fades, but the way you made her feel, safe, seen, challenged, that doesn't. Every time she tries to fill that void, she'll be met with disappointment, because love built on validation will always collapse. What you gave her was presence, and presence can't be bought, simulated, or replaced. You weren't performing love, you were being love, and that scares people who are used to pretending. You made her confront her emotional immaturity without even saying a word, and now she's trapped in the very cycle she once thought she'd escaped, chasing the same emptiness she created when she let you go. There's something women never admit. When they meet a high-value man, it resets their internal compass forever. They can date again, they can laugh again, they can even love again, but they'll never feel safe again. Because true safety doesn't come from being coddled, it comes from being grounded in a man's presence. You weren't loud, but your silence spoke volumes. You didn't demand respect, you simply lived in a way that made disrespect feel wrong. That's what separates you from the rest. You didn't need her compliance to be masculine. You were masculine regardless of how she acted. And now every man after you will have to pay for that comparison. She'll subconsciously test them, push them, provoke them, hoping to feel the same spark of strength you gave off effortlessly, but none will match it, because none were built from self-respect like you. You see, the modern world has made women believe that losing a good man isn't a big deal, that they can always replace him, that there's always someone better. But here's the secret truth she'll never say out loud: replacements only make sense when what you lost was ordinary. You weren't ordinary, you didn't fit the algorithm, you were the glitch, the unexpected man who didn't need her attention to feel valuable. And now that she's out there chasing excitement, she'll realize excitement fades fast. The conversations get shallower, the intimacy emptier, the laughter more forced. And when the silence hits, when she's alone at night and the noise settles, that's when the memories of you return. Not because she wants you back, but because her soul recognizes the void that only your calmness could fill. That's the kind of absence that doesn't go away, it grows. But you're not waiting, you're not watching, you're not even angry, you've evolved. You've realized that being the man she'll never find again isn't something to gloat about, it's something to honor, because it means you lived authentically, loved purely, and stayed grounded when most would have broken. It means your energy was so rare that it became unforgettable. And that's all you ever needed to do. Not prove your worth, not demand recognition, but simply embody it. That's what makes you different from the rest. You're not the man who seeks closure, you're the man who is closure. You don't need to explain your absence because your silence already says everything. You were enough. She just wasn't ready for it. And that's the irony of it all. The man she once thought was too calm, too distant, too unemotional, is now the standard she measures every man against. Because in a world of emotional chaos, your calm became her craving. In a world of surface-level connection, your depth became her addiction. She might not ever tell you this, pride won't allow it, but her actions will. The random check-ins, the subtle jealousy, the passive-aggressive posts, it's all her way of saying, I can't find another you. But by then, you'll be long gone. Not just physically, but mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Because when a man outgrows the need to be understood, he becomes untouchable. That's the real definition of power. Not control over others, but control over yourself. So let her search, let her date, let her pretend she's thriving. You don't need to prove that she lost something irreplaceable. Life will do that for you. Every shallow conversation, every fake smile, every fleeting connection will remind her of you. Not because you were perfect, but because you were real. And in a world built on illusion, real always wins, just not right away. You don't have to watch her regret. You don't have to hear her apology. The universe already knows what it's doing. The day she meets another man like you will never come, because you weren't just another chapter in her story. You were the turning point she'll never recover from. And while she's busy looking backward, you'll be too far ahead, walking in silence, building a life so peaceful, she'll never believe she once had access to it and threw it away. Over time, her mind will start to play tricks on her. She'll remember the moments she overlooked, the calm way you handled conflict, the quiet confidence in your presence, the way you never raised your voice even when she tried to provoke you. At first, she'll convince herself she made the right decision. She'll tell herself that leaving was growth, that she needed space, that she deserved excitement, but the excitement will fade, and what remains will be the echo of everything she couldn't appreciate. Because men like you don't give chaos, they give peace. And peace, to someone addicted to drama, always feels boring at first. But as life humbles her, as every fun relationship turns empty, she'll realize that peace was the most passionate thing she ever had, and that realization will come too late. See, a woman doesn't truly understand the value of stability until she's been burned by instability. She thought she wanted attention, but what she really needed was consistency. She thought she wanted butterflies, but what she really craved was safety. You gave her both, without needing recognition. You were patient while she chased the noise. You were present while she sought validation. And now, as she cycles through men who only offer surface-level affection, your energy becomes a haunting memory she can't shake. You were her calm in the storm, but she mistook your silence for indifference. She thought you didn't care when, in reality, you cared in a way that required maturity to see. That's why she'll never meet another man like you, because most men today don't love from depth, they love for attention. She'll eventually try to recreate you in other men. It won't be obvious, but it'll show. She'll look for your mannerisms in someone else's face. She'll expect the same reassurance, the same patience, the same energy, but none will match. Because you weren't acting, you were real. And real doesn't copy. Real doesn't chase trends. Real doesn't come from validation, it comes from discipline. The men she meets after you will try to impress her with status or charm, but none will bring the stillness you carried in your presence. That stillness wasn't learned, it was earned, through pain, through experience, through solitude. And that's something she can't replace, because she didn't lose a boyfriend, she lost a foundation. A man whose absence doesn't just create space, it creates silence that exposes every shallow thing she runs toward. When a woman loses a grounded man, she doesn't lose affection, she loses direction, because your steadiness was the anchor she never realized she needed. You didn't compete with her emotions, you contained them. You didn't fight her battles, you inspired her to face them. You didn't beg for respect, you commanded it effortlessly. That's why she's unsettled now, because every man after you demands validation, attention, or submission, but none give leadership through presence. You were the kind of man who didn't need to say, "I'm different," you showed it in the way you lived. And now that she's met men who talk loud but act small, she'll finally understand the value of silence backed by strength. That's when the regret starts, slowly, quietly, painfully. Her ego won't let her admit it, but she'll replay every mistake in her mind. Every moment she doubted you. Every time she chose temporary pleasure over long-term peace. The memory of how easy you were to talk to, how safe it felt to be around you, how deeply she could breathe in your presence, those memories will sting, because now, every new man will remind her of what she lost. They'll talk too much, react too fast, take offense too easily. They'll love her for her looks, not her energy. And in those quiet nights, when her new excitement turns cold, she'll remember your silence. She'll remember how you never begged, never forced, never clung. And she'll realize that your detachment wasn't distance, it was strength. You loved her, but you never lost yourself for her. That's what makes you unforgettable. What she never understood is that men like you don't move on out of spite. You move on out of awareness. You saw the truth that love built on emotional chaos can never last. You realize that some people don't need saving, they need to learn through loss. And that's why you walked away without resentment. You didn't curse her name, you simply outgrew her behavior. That's what real maturity looks like, not reacting, but responding with silence. And the irony, your silence became the loudest message she's ever heard. Because while she was trying to prove she didn't need you, she unknowingly proved how much she did. In time, she'll start seeing you everywhere, not literally, but in spirit. She'll meet men who remind her of your discipline, your patience, your composure, but they'll always fall short. Because the one thing they won't have is your authenticity. You weren't pretending to be confident. You were confident. You weren't playing hard to get. You were genuinely busy becoming the man you said you were. That's what separates real masculine energy from performance. It doesn't need validation. And now that she's surrounded by men who fake confidence for attention, she'll crave what you had naturally: stillness. That unshakable aura that says, "I don't chase, I choose." That's the energy she'll never find again, because only men who've suffered, healed, and grown alone can possess it. Here's the thing about loss. It teaches through contrast. You don't realize the value of peace until you've tasted chaos. You don't understand loyalty until you've been betrayed. And she won't truly understand you until she's faced a world without you. Every argument she starts now will remind her of your calm. Every fight for control will remind her of your restraint. Every moment she feels unsafe will remind her of how secure you made her feel. She'll realize that losing you wasn't just about losing love, it was about losing balance, because the kind of balance you brought doesn't come from romance, it comes from purpose, and purpose is something most men don't have anymore. That's why, no matter who she's with, she'll never find the same alignment she had with you. And you'll keep rising quietly, you'll rebuild stronger, not out of revenge, but out of wisdom. You'll start to attract things that match your peace, friends who respect your time, opportunities that match your discipline, women who don't confuse love with attention. You'll realize that her leaving wasn't your loss, it was your liberation. You were meant to outgrow her, not outlast her. You were meant to learn what kind of energy drains you and what kind fills you. And as you grow, her absence will start to feel less like pain and more like proof. Proof that not everyone can walk with you to the next level. Proof that solitude is a sanctuary, not a punishment. Proof that you never needed her to become the man you were destined to be. She'll never meet another man like you because she's not supposed to. Some people are divine lessons disguised as heartbreaks. You weren't meant to be her forever, you were meant to be her awakening. And one day she'll realize that. When her mind quiets, when her games stop working, when her beauty fades and her options disappear, she'll finally see what she lost. But by then, you'll have become someone she can't even approach anymore. Not because you're cruel, but because you've elevated. You're no longer operating from emotion, you're moving with intention. You're not looking for love to complete you. You're creating a life so full that love simply complements it. That's when you'll know you didn't lose her. You found yourself, and the man who finds himself can never be replaced. Over time, the regret doesn't fade for her, it deepens. What used to be a faint ache turns into a quiet haunting that follows her through the years. It's not the kind of pain that demands attention, but the one that hides behind every happy moment. She might laugh at dinners, take vacations, even fall into new relationships. But beneath all that noise lies an unshakable truth. She lost a man who would have never given up on her. If only she had valued him. She'll notice it when other men disappoint her easily, when conversations lack depth, when no one can make her feel emotionally safe. It's not that she wants you back, it's that no one else measures up. You weren't just her past, you were the standard. You taught her what it means to be loved by a man who doesn't need to control, who doesn't need to prove, who simply is. And now, everything else feels like imitation. There's a certain loneliness that comes with realizing you were the real one in a world of temporary emotions. She'll start to understand the difference between being wanted and being valued. Most men will want her for her looks, her energy, her presence, but few will value her soul. You did. You saw her not as a conquest, but as a connection. And that's rare. That's sacred. But she wasn't ready for that kind of love. She wanted validation, not vulnerability. So she ran from what was real toward what was easy. And now she's paying for it, not through heartbreak, but through emptiness. Because emotional regret doesn't scream, it whispers. It sneaks up in quiet hours, when the phone is silent and no one's watching. That's when she replays it all. Your patience, your kindness, the way you made her feel seen. And the realization hits, she'll never get that again. Because you've grown into a man who no longer gives that energy to just anyone. Meanwhile, your transformation keeps unfolding. What once felt like heartbreak has become your greatest strength. You've mastered the art of emotional restraint, not repression, but control. You no longer let temporary emotions dictate permanent decisions. You've learned that love doesn't mean losing yourself. It means standing so firmly in your truth that no storm can shake it. You no longer chase women, you attract peace. You no longer seek validation, you embody worth. Every aspect of your life starts to align with your new frequency, your focus, your health, your mindset. You've realized that masculine energy isn't about dominance, it's about direction. You move with quiet confidence, not arrogance. You don't compete, you conquer internally. And that kind of man, the one who doesn't need the world to recognize his value, becomes the one the world can't ignore. What she'll never admit is that her ego was her downfall. She didn't lose you because you weren't enough. She lost you because she couldn't outgrow her own pride. She played emotional games, thinking she could manipulate your feelings, but she ended up manipulating her own happiness. She thought she was in control when she was pulling away, not realizing she was the one being taught a lesson in loss. Because every woman eventually learns, too late, that a man who loves in silence, who gives without expectation, and who walks away without anger is the kind of man she'll never recover from. You didn't just exit her life, you exited her emotional comfort zone. You shattered the illusion that she could take real love for granted. And that lesson, that heartbreak, becomes her teacher for years to come. Because once a man like you walks away in peace, his absence becomes her mirror. That's the thing about men like you. Your value isn't seen until it's gone. It's felt in the space you leave behind. Because when you were there, she thought peace was boring. Now she realizes that chaos is exhausting. When you were there, she thought consistency was predictable. Now she sees that uncertainty is terrifying. You gave her stability, something the modern world has conditioned her to undervalue. But the truth is, women crave what they can't find in themselves. Safety, leadership, you were all of that, and she pushed it away because she mistook emotional security for weakness. But she'll never find another you because most men today are reactive, not reflective. They're chasing pleasure, not purpose. You, on the other hand, stand still in a world that moves too fast. And that stillness, that composure, that masculine grounding is exactly what she'll crave until her last breath. And when she does try to reach out, it won't be because she suddenly rediscovered love. It'll be because she misses the way she felt around you. Calm, protected, safe. That's the paradox of women. They often don't want the man, they want the feeling the man gives them. But by the time she realizes it, you've already reclaimed that energy and redirected it inward. You've become the source of your own peace. You no longer need her to feel complete. You are whole on your own. That's why she'll find herself drawn back, not because of who you were to her, but because of who you've become without her. And that's when she'll truly understand the magnitude of her mistake. Because she'll see that you were never dependent on her validation, she was dependent on your stability, and the loss of that stability will echo in every relationship that follows. The most painful realization for her will come when she meets a man who seems perfect on paper, but doesn't make her feel anything. She'll smile, she'll play along, she'll convince herself she's happy, but deep down, something will always be missing. The emotional depth, the quiet certainty, the grounded masculine energy that made her feel like she could exhale around you. You weren't loud, you weren't dramatic, you weren't performative, and that's what made you unforgettable. Because in a world full of men trying to prove themselves, you simply existed in your power. You didn't chase her approval, you created your peace. You didn't try to impress her, you inspired her. That difference, that stillness in your energy, is what she'll crave forever. And no matter how hard she tries to move on, she'll never find another man who understands her silence the way you did. It's ironic, isn't it? The same silence that once frustrated her will now be the silence she longs to hear again. The same calm that once made her feel bored will now feel like safety. The same emotional discipline she once called cold will now look like strength. Time has a way of revealing the truth, not in words but in absence. And the truth is, she didn't lose just a man, she lost emotional safety. You were the eye of her storm, the only calm she ever knew. Every other relationship will remind her of what she threw away. Not because you were perfect, but because you were present. You didn't pretend to be something you weren't. You were honest, grounded, real. And in a world built on illusions, authenticity is the rarest kind of luxury. That's what makes you unforgettable. You were her reality check in a world full of fantasy. And as for you, you'll look back one day, not with bitterness, but with gratitude. Because you'll finally see that she didn't break you, she built you. Her leaving forced you to meet the man you were meant to become. The silence taught you peace. The pain taught you strength. The rejection taught you self-respect. Every lesson she unknowingly gave you has become a foundation for your greatness. You've learned that love isn't about losing yourself to someone. It's about finding someone who matches your peace. And until that happens, you'll stay focused, grounded, detached. Because you've learned the ultimate masculine truth. A man who can be alone is a man who can't be controlled. That's why you're free now. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about yourself more. That's the kind of power no heartbreak can take away. So when she sees you again, whether in person or through a screen, she won't see the same man she left. She'll see a man transformed by silence, strengthened by solitude, and defined by peace. The very qualities she once took for granted will now feel unreachable. She'll realize she didn't just lose a man, she lost the chance to evolve with him. Because while she was chasing attention, you were building alignment. While she was collecting moments, you were creating meaning. And now, you've become the man she'll measure everyone against but never replace. That's her karma. Her punishment isn't your absence, it's your evolution. Because she'll forever live with the truth that she once had the rarest kind of love and she threw it away. You were the chapter she skipped, thinking she could come back to it later. But that chapter closed, and the book has moved on without her.